And Garside, the intro video.
Garside. I like getting to have yelled Garside's name like that several times today.
That was pretty good.
Are we going? Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Oh, wait, never mind. I can hear you. False alarm.
Oh, was it your ears?
Yeah, I think I was just listening for Roman.
Roman's not here, man.
Roman's not here, man.
Oh, Roman's not here, man.
I think that's like a Cheech and Chong thing, right?
That is a Cheech and Chong thing. Which one do you want to be?
Welcome to the Comics Place presents a perfectly acceptable Cheech and Chong fan cast, brought to you by Bellingham's own Cheech and Chong. Boing!
Boing!
The stoners of the comics industry. No, that was a whole fake reality. If you thought that was correct, you're mistaken, and you need to go to an alternate timeline for that reality, because this, in fact, is the Comics Place presents a perfectly acceptable podcast, a podcast about comic books and camaraderie and brotherly love and a shared enthusiasm for illustrated sequential fiction. I am always Jeff.
This time am Django.
Ooh.
And with us is nobody.
Right. Roman's not here, man. He's not here. He's somewhere else, but that's okay, because Django and I have spent a fair amount of time recalibrating our spiritual frequencies over the last week. And I think that we are back here stronger than ever. And I don't think we even need a third leg to this stool. Shout out Brian Garside for stepping in last week while we were on the Comics EXP local comic store day thing. That was fun.
That was super fun. We got to do 2 hours with Brian. It was a Data Bros, and then not Data Bros, but definitely the Data Bros.
Yeah. And I was just told to show up. So what was that thing?
So Kyle Northrup is one of the people behind the EXP, which is it's basically like he moved away from comic stores in his area, and now he runs like this online version of a comic store where you can like belly up to the bar of the comic place and hang out with people. And so it's like some videos, some podcasts, some live sales. Adam Freeman's Prana stuff goes through there sometimes. So it's just like comic nerd YouTube channel, and it's really awesome.
I like that. What's the official name of the channel?
The EXP.
All right. Not to be confused with Seattle's EXP Experience Music Project.
That's the EMP.
Yeah, it's a totally different acronym. So totally I don't know why you brought it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely check that out. They're rad.
Yeah, check it out. And just a big shout out to Kyle, who has done various audio support things for Django and I in the shop for many years now, but specifically at Comics Pro. He's always running the boards, managing the 1s and 2s, putting the video up there, and he just like knocks it out of the park every time. It's so good to be around people who rock at what they do.
And he do.
Oh, and he do.
And he rock.
Yeah. I wish I knew what that was like, being around somebody who's really on top of stuff. Speaking of being really on top of stuff, though, Django.
Wait a minute.
That was a little dig. It was a little dig.
Okay, I couldn't. It hurt a little bit, but I couldn't figure out why.
That's how I like to do it. I like people to smile and nod, and then in the moments afterward, realize they're in a little bit of pain.
I appreciate it, buddy.
You're
really
so welcome.
Appreciate it.
Joining us this week, as always, a voicemail from Bill Elmer. Hey, Bill.
Hello, and happy episode number 406, my friends. I just finished building a Lego set.
Ooh, building.
I had to run out and buy this Lego Game Boy set that came out. It's just one that I absolutely couldn't miss. And, you know, on that note, like I missed out on buying this Wolverine Claw Lego set last year before they stopped making it. And I refused to pay $100 and something for scalpers on eBay to get this Lego set. But I really am bummed out I missed it. And that made me wonder, what's a comic book key issue, a collector's edition hardcover that you guys missed out on that you regret and you refuse to pay a scalper for, but you would really love to have turn up? Love you guys. Awesome.
That is a great question, Will, and I have such a perfect answer for the shipment of comics that just arrived in our comic shop. But Django bought me that Wolverine Claw Lego set, and I have it assembled on my bookshelf. So, Will, you need to get a Django.
Or just get on the Lego website sooner.
Oh, that's true too. That's true.
Will has a Django. He's sitting right here.
That's true. That's true. Django, did you get the Game Boy Lego set?
I didn't get the Game Boy Lego set. I was basically out of video games by the time the Game Boy came around. So like the NES Lego set is hands down the best video game console Lego set for me. That said, I keep getting advertisements for it and I keep thinking, man, I could just order it right now. It looks pretty cool.
It does.
Cool to make this little box, I guess.
Yeah. I've been a little tempted, but yeah, I didn't pull the trigger on it, and I don't regret it. We're okay. We're okay where we're at, and I've been so waist deep in building Gundams that I'm okay. Mm-hmm. I find myself in the predicament of wanting big, nice hardcover versions of my favorite things. And like Will indicated, they have a pretty limited print run because they're expensive books to produce. So they'll usually do an initial print run and they go out of print. So recently, the Marvel versus DC Amalgam Age Omnibus had come out, and I was so excited to get that. And we were shorted our full order, and we gave it to the customers who actually, I think it was Will. We gave it to Will so he could buy it. And then I was very bummed to realize that it was not available. Luckily, Django was waist deep in a trip down the I-5 corridor, and he found me a copy at a local comic store, and I wasn't wanting. But that's even just on Reddit, I was on a couple of days ago, and somebody was bemoaning, like, I really need an Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 2, but it's $350. Like, should I just pay it? And my advice is, like, they'll reprint it. Don't worry.
Yeah. I mean,
you had Transmet.
I had there was one volume of Transmet Absolute that I sold to a customer. Was it maybe Judd?
Maybe. Yeah.
I can't quite remember who it was, but I hooked them up with a Transmet Volume 3, I think, and then discovered that it was out of print and just kind of paced around my house for days and days and months and weeks until they finally reprinted it, which they did. I also bought the Starman Omnibus. About like 3 or 4 of them from Neil McLaughlin at actually at a Pacific Nerd West that I put on before I was really super involved with the shop, right? And and so he had them, he was selling for like $5 each or something, just getting rid of his collection. And so I bought them and then found out that like volume 3 or volume 4 was a $450 volume hardcover. Super irritating. And all like, unlike the Transmet, that was something that I don't know why they would ever reprint. So I don't remember where I ended up getting it.
I don't remember it either.
Might have come in a collection or I found it at a thrift store or something, but I found a copy that wasn't super expensive. And then the one that I think we could both agree on is the scalped hardcovers.
Oh yeah, those were, yep, absolutely. I'm so glad they printed that omnibus.
Yeah.
But a giant hole in my personal comic collection for many years now has been the Absolute Edition of Batman Dark Victory. I have Long Halloween and Haunted Night, but you know, especially those first two, Long Halloween and Dark Victory, those are some of the best Batman comics ever made, with some of the most beautiful art ever in a Batman comic. And yeah, Dark Victory, I didn't have it, and it was several $100s to get one. And like 8 months ago, they announced that they were going to do a reprint of it. So that arrived today, and I get to take it home very soon.
Nice.
Yeah, in general, I'm not somebody who super values like first prints on things. So like, as long as there's a good chance it's going to be reprinted, I'm happy to wait.
This is just a little bit off topic, but bouncing off of what you just said. Um, for trade paperbacks and hardcovers, I don't normally care about the first prints, but we've had a few come in the store that I definitely took home. We had like a big collection that had been bought by somebody from a store back in the day, and we ended up with like 7 or 8 copies each of the first soft cover editions of Batman Year One and the first hardcover edition of Arkham Asylum,
Mm-hmm.
and also a first edition of Watchmen. And so I took one of each of those home because those are early trade paperbacks, like not the
Yeah.
first, but pretty early for collected comics.
Yeah, that's an aspect of me liking first prints. If it's either specifically the binding I would have had when I was young,
Yep.
that, or yeah, like the history of collected comics is interesting and you can trace it back to certain things. So that's another good point.
Yeah.
For sure. And as you may have gleaned from that conversation, yes, working at a comic shop is awesome, but it does mean, hopefully, if you're doing it right, that you lose things from your own collection to help the customers of your store.
And you crawl up your own butt a little bit.
Oh my God. It's all I smell. It's all I smell is my own stomach acid. Comic books, you guessed it. There is a big old week of comics next week right ahead of us.
Holy
I'm
cow.
so excited about new issue of Absolute Batman, DCKO, which I have foolishly become quite excited about. Kirkman's new Transformers.
I'm going to be so out of town for it too.
Oh, well, oh yeah, you won't be here. I grabbed copies of each of those today. So I've got them
Nice.
in another room, but we had to read this week's snag of comics before I can get into those.
It's true.
So the last thing in the way of me talking about next week's comics or reading them is talking about this week's comics, which is not so bad because it was not a huge week. It's not like next week and not as big as last week. But there was some pretty exciting things in the comic stacks this week. Django, yay or nay?
Yay.
Yay. We usually like to start with a new number one or something, but I gotta get a gooey duck off my chest. I want to talk about Matt Fraction's Batman #2 with art by Jorge Jimenez. This is the second issue in Matt Fraction's new Batman run, starting before the previous volume has officially ended. Notably, each of these issues are sort of described as being kind of self-contained little one-shots, which I think is really great for a comic series that has been feeding into large, kind of overarching, kind of heavy plots for many years now. So, we've got his gray and blue costume. This time we get to spend a bunch of time with Dick Grayson. I love this book, Django. I was like halfway through it and was just like, I don't know if I could have told you that this is the tone that I kind of need from Batman right now.
Yeah.
But while reading it, I'm so happy that this is what we're getting.
It's okay. Did you just say we hang out with Dick Grayson?
I meant to say Robin, but I believe I
Okay.
said Dick Grayson. Yeah.
I think it's Tim, right?
Yeah, it's Tim
Okay.
for sure.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I was just reframing everything that I had just read in this book, thinking that it was Dick Grayson.
That was my
It's all
bad.
Tim. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
And a
Cool.
little Damien in there.
Yeah, man. This is super fun. Just kind of adventure. I think that this is maybe my favorite Jorge Jimenez art.
Mm-hmm.
It looks different than his art does sometimes.
Yeah, it's a little less like glossy and smooth, and it's got like a little bit more shadow and kind of Bruno Redondo sort of halftone dots and stuff.
Some effects and like some thinner lines. Yeah, I don't know. There's something about it that's a little more stylistic, I think. And I really like it. I love like Batman's body language in this when he's pulling the spike strip off the road is really
it's a
good.
Great panel.
And when he's using his cape as a shield is really good. And there's a whole panel where Robin is falling off of a fire escape, and that's like the big splash page. It's so good. I love it.
Yeah. You know, we've talked about our desire to sort of return to an era of comics where you've got these sort of A, B, and C plots that gives a sense of
Mhm.
continuity to it, and you're in it and kind of moving forward. And I still stand by really wanting that more in the comics industry. But it's nice. There is a thread, like there's connective tissue.
Mhm.
But last issue was very different than this issue. And this one, we just are getting to know Matt Fraction's take on Batman and how he wants to flush out the dynamics of Batman and Robin.
Mhm.
There's so many choices a Batman writer needs to make when they're going into their run. Just like, what Robin am I doing? If I'm doing Tim, what does that mean about Damian? If I'm doing Damian, what does that mean about Tim? What are their ages? Like, all of these things need to be conceptualized. So as we're getting introduced to Matt's view of this run, I really like the balance between Batman and Tim, which I'm going to absolutely call him the wrong name throughout the recording of this for sure, to get Damian in there. But like, I know you and I both are huge Tim Drake fans. So like I love
Yeah.
Damian, love Grant introducing Damian, but it did take a little bit away from Tim, and it's been hard to get him back into that solid Robin role with this other Robin around. So I really like the steps that this takes to continue Tim Drake's legacy as Robin while also having Damian around.
So this is framed between flashbacks, right?
Hmm.
Of Tim and Bruce and Damian hanging out, and Damian kind of getting the Mr. Miyagi treatment from Bruce. Right? He's making him wash the car, wash the Batmobile, and he's teaching Tim how to drive. Not the Batmobile at that point, but do you think that that's taking place in the Grant Morrison time, or is that after Damian has died and come back?
I would say after the Grant stuff, without being able to be certain about that, primarily because Damian is getting along with everybody here. Like he's slightly
Okay.
antagonistic with Tim, but in the Morrison run, Damian is still pretty rough around the edges.
Yeah.
So yeah, but like there's even, I mean, I guess they're implying Tim's age here is around 16 or so, right?
Yeah, since he's learning how to drive.
Yeah, and going to that school and stuff. So being able, it's always a dangerous gamble in comics to like try and put a name and an age together in a specific chronology of events because it always gets moved around and stuff. But I really like Tim being 16. That feels really right to me. And Damian's age being younger. I just
Mhm.
think with like the sliding timescale of comics, we've sort of been aging those people up.
Yeah.
And I think this age is kind of what we need. But just to like see Wade has done it pretty well in his Batman and Robin Year One story, but it's very present in this as well. That like the dynamic of Batman needing a Robin, and the
Right.
way that balance actually works is very present throughout this run. Just in the levity that Robin brings to Batman.
Yeah. And the literal life saving that Robin brings
Yeah.
to Batman. Like Batman misjudges something in this and he needs Tim to help him, which leads us to one of my favorite panels of the week, which is just a picture of the Batmobile gear shift. And it's got
Dude.
13 gears. And if you notice the sixth panel on there, Batman's saying, then there's the secret gear, 13, and he's holding up three fingers. And it's just like 13 gears. And I don't know, like that hand motion tells you what his voice sounds like right there. I really
Yeah.
like it. Did you notice that the thieves in the very beginning are wearing Anarchy's colors and they spray paint an Anarchy symbol on the side of the truck?
No, good catch. Anarchy is that kind of 80s, early 90s era of Batman comics I'm not as familiar with, but Justin would
Yeah,
have caught that.
it's Norm Brayfogle.
Yeah.
Was part of the creation of that, and the character has like this really tall body, and it turns out I think it's like a young short kid wearing a fake head that brings his cloak up 3 feet over his body, which is kind of cool.
It's excellent for me and my experience reading Batman comics to get to see him exude that like warmth and heart towards his family that like a human being would have. and it's been kind of absent in a lot of Batman runs lately. I just really like, Batman having a heart and being a dad role to these kids as well. And so I liked that present in here. There was one other thing that I forget, but yeah, I just think this is a fantastic comic. You get Batman get shot in the head. Shot in the head.
Shot in the head. Yeah, that's pretty bonkers. Okay. I'm just gonna say this every time we see
Please
it.
do.
I don't care for Vandal Savage as the police commissioner.
I don't either.
I don't know if Chip decided on that or if it was like an editorial decision, but
Or was that even before Chip?
I don't think so, but maybe. Chip was on it for a long ass time.
He was, yeah.
So if I have two complaints about this issue, it's that, which is I don't think Fraction's fault. I'll bet that he wraps that up. And I don't know if this is a complaint or not, but what do you think of the newscasters being full body instead of head only?
Oh wow, that's definitely the kind of thing I don't really have an opinion about.
Well, I prefer head only because otherwise it's not really a Dark Knight Returns reference. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't have a lifetime relationship with Dark Knight Returns, so not too worried about that. You were right. Chip Zdarsky introduced that in issue 155.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I thought.
Arsenic Lullaby. And yeah, just the way that Robin takes over the Batmobile in this one, like Bruce trying to show Robin that, like, yeah, that vote of confidence he has to, empower him. I love great mentors, and we see Batman being a great mentor in here. I don't like Vandal Savage as the commissioner. I hope that ends soon. But he does recruits. Oh yeah, the cliffhanger of this is the very common Batman trope of Gotham police declaring Batman and Robin to be enemies of the police, which that's fine.
Yeah,
I'm not bummed at all about that. That's a minor point.
I mean, it'll give Batman another chance to save a cat like year one.
And then final shout out for this Gooey Duck book. I love the little images of the bat utility that's being used. It's like an infographic. It's got an image of how it would look as like a game HUD, option, and then it describes what it does. I really like that. Those are the small touches that while I was reading this, I really did get that feeling of, oh, he really brought a new light to Hawkeye. And I kind of forget that book, what happened to it was so much Fraction's doing. And there's little glimpses of that throughout here. So very, very excited about it. Batman #2 gets a big old Gooey Duck from J-Dog.
Jeff gives a gooey. That's what this episode is going to be called. I'm going to give it a 9. Just mostly because of the Vandal Savage and the TV heads. But other than that, it's a pretty awesome comic.
Yeah. Django.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear you use the word noir several times accurately. So if you wouldn't mind beginning the discussion about Spider-Man Noir #1, I'll just bask in the soft R.
Spider-Man Noir #1.
Whoa,
is,
hard R.
Huh? Whoa.
Pretty hard R there.
Is that what you meant?
I want to hear noir.
Do I look French?
No.
Do I look French to you?
Cajun.
Well, all right. Maybe some French.
Well,
all right. Spider-Man Noir. Data?
Yeah.
Data. Spider-Man by Eric Larson with art by we should have a script or something.
We should.
It includes like how to sound out people's names.
Learn how to read with the comics.
Andrea
Brocardo.
Yeah. With Rochelle Rosenberg on colors. So this, I haven't really been following Spider-Man Noir. Actually, maybe I have. Maybe I did read the last series where he was like going around the world. It was super fun.
Yeah.
Super funny. Lots of old timey slang, which I always get into. So yeah, I picked this up mostly because I was curious what Eric Larson was going to do with it, and I ended up enjoying it more than that. It's very dense, which I didn't really expect. But we're basically just following a super down on his luck Peter Parker in the 30s, doing his Peter Parker thing with a decent amount of like 30s speak. A couple character designs that I didn't agree with, but it's an alternate universe, so it's fine,
Yeah.
right? They
Yeah.
had mustaches like that back then.
Absolutely.
And Gwen Stacy is the dame that walks into Private Eye Peter Parker's office.
I like
He
that.
gets to beat up a Nazi bat, which
I love how above board the whole beating up a Nazi was. Like,
yeah,
he said Heil Hitler. They
yep,
beat the shit out of him. There was no ambiguity there of like, is it okay to do? It was just like, no, you're bad. Like,
yeah,
I liked how straightforward that was.
yeah. And it sets up a pretty good mystery. So yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's a pretty good comic. I have a really hard time reading this in the voice of Nicolas Cage,
Right.
but
Which is what Django does for all of the voices in comic books when he's reading them.
yeah. Did
Big-
you
Big
what
Cage
did
head.
you
Well, I was surprised when you told me this was Eric Larson. Just on the one hand, seems like an odd pull to be doing this book at Marvel right now. And also surprising with how well handled I feel like it was. And not to disparage Eric Larson, Bellingham native, but I guess I kind of, when I saw that it was his name, it felt a little bit like, when Chris Claremont comes back to do an X-Men book or something, and it feels kind of like a legacy thing, and it doesn't sound like the other X-Men books, and he's sort of writing like he used to write. This, to me, I think if you had not told me it was Eric Larson, I would have believed it was like any number of modern current comic book writers.
Yeah.
Roman did want us to share that Spider-Man Noir wasn't noir enough, and he was too Peter Parker-y.
The lights were on a lot.
Yeah. And Venetian blinds. I guess I got a page with Venetian blinds right here. I think there's a little bit of truth to that. I think I couldn't have told you exactly what year this was supposed to be taking place unless it tells us there. And it probably does feel a little bit more like 616 modern day Peter Parker-y, but not in a way that was a problem to me at all. So I think that if anybody's going to be bothered by that, it'd be big noir heads, and certainly not just the Edge of Spider-Verse public that would be interested in reading this book. I also thought that the art was perfectly acceptable in every regard. Like, I don't have complaints about it. There were pages that I thought it looked really good.
Yeah, there were definitely some pages that I thought stood out as superior to others.
I'll say that the Scorpion Gang mask looks like their nose is being bit by a scorpion. So they got little scorpion mustaches.
Chumps.
I really liked, the introduction of Gwendolyn Stacy in here. Most people listening know Team Gwen all the way. Also Team Black Cat. Mostly just not Team Mary Jane.
Yeah, I like that he's getting hassled for rent, which is trope for the Private Eye. He hasn't had his nose broken yet, but it better happen before the end of the series.
Better happen.
Or
yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah, and the slight slashes of light coming through the blinds. That's how it's going to need to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you're going to keep reading it?
Depends on the week that the next one comes out, but
Yeah.
I'll probably check in on the next one. I feel positively about it. Like,
I do too.
I'm going to give it an 8.5.
Yeah. What am I going to give it, Django? I gave it an 8.5 also.
Did you? Okay.
8.5 for Spider-Man Noir #1.
Yeah.
It's
good comic.
Isn't it amazing that, like, you can change a lot of art styles and costumes and everything, but the Aunt May model is pretty much on point always.
Till you get to the movies.
Yeah, exactly. And like, that very frail, thin, tall-headed woman. Injured. So Spider-Man Noir, 8.5 from the old Jeff.
That's an average of 8.5 for everyone keeping track at home.
I like that. Hey, Django.
Yeah, buddy.
Have you ever hung out with H.P. Lovecraft on the last day of his life?
You know what? I made a mistake, and I
Oh.
did that on the toilet this morning.
Oh,
Not to give everybody a peek behind the curtain, because
behind the shower curtain.
sometimes I poop.
Sometimes a poop. So this is written by Romuald Gulivo, an artist or a writer I wasn't familiar with, but the art is by Jacob Rebelka, who was, in my mind, as the artist of a Boom miniseries many years ago called Judas that both of us, Django and I, really liked and talked about on the podcast, and I'm a huge fan of that book. So he did the art in that. Django also pointed out that recently he had done the art in When I Lay My Vengeance Upon Thee. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Apparently he also did Cyberpunk 2077, which makes me want to crack a copy of Cyberpunk 2077 now.
And I'll play the video game while you do it.
Nice.
So when I started reading this, I did have to do a quick Google check to see who wrote Judas, because I was hoping that this was the same creative team. It is not the same creative team. This is not a writer that I'm familiar with. I would have loved to have Roman around here to tell us his opinions on this, because he is a big fan of H.P. Lovecraft and sort of fictionalized historical pieces about old writers like that. The art is very unique. Kind of messy, but like not messy. I don't know how you would describe it. It's kind of smudgy, a lot of interesting ink choices, but also pretty detailed at times.
Yeah. I don't really know how to describe it. It feels like art that is in a black and white movie.
Yeah, and this doesn't do a ton of good in describing to people, but if I had to put maybe a reference point, like there's a little Fraser Irving who did some Batman stuff and some other horror stuff.
But everybody's kind of either grotesque or weird. And the rooms are all kind of bleak and sad. Like, he does a really good job of making every scene feel cold and gross. And he does that in the other books of his, I think, that we read. Like, nothing looks like you're in a comfortable space when you're hanging out with this guy.
A lot of messes to clean up.
Yeah.
So that said, it was atmospheric and I liked the art. I couldn't super tell you what happened in this issue.
Yeah, I mean, it was basically just a dude, I think, from the future showing up for H.P. Lovecraft's at H.P. Lovecraft's deathbed, right?
Okay.
Because he's got a phone or a Kindle, and he's got a newspaper article about Bush and Saddam Hussein.
Okay, so I missed that stuff. Well done.
Yeah. So I don't know that we really know where he came from. Also, I will fully admit that I didn't read the 2 pages of cursive on the last page.
I didn't also. I surely meant to, but
well, we thought Roman would be here.
But basically, it's sort of like H.P. Lovecraft had sort of hypothesized the idea of Pluto existing. And so this person who visits him is able to confirm that Pluto does exist. And it seems like it's populated by the sort of Lovecraftian horror elements of Lovecraft's writing on Pluto, maybe literally or metaphorically. But then there's some kind of dark fantasy stuff of like, did he birth some reality from his fiction, or was he tapped into this reality? And yeah, it's a little confusing. It's got to be a mini series and it's got to have another issue. But when I finished this, it was also a kind of ambiguous enough ending that I was like, was that it? Like, what did I not quite get here?
There is at least a second issue coming, and it looks like that second issue maybe got solicited in a weird way, because I didn't have a picture for it real handy. But yeah, it calls it the second chapter, so I'm guessing it goes at least another issue after that.
It's also a tricky spot to be in, because H.P. Lovecraft, famously a racist
turd
trash bag. Yeah. So to tell a story about him implies
racist for the time.
Yeah. Not just racist by today's standards, but racist for back then. So on some level, I could see people just being like, no, I'm good, I'll take a pass. But it's also they kind of address it and mention like his mother or father's effect on him and like that terrible racism there. But yeah, I imagine you have to kind of humanize a person if you want to be telling this type of story about them. Also, maybe not. But it's an interesting exercise from a writer, but also as a consumer about holding both aspects of a character in your head, the interesting parts with also maybe the horrible parts.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, the art is the in. Like I'll probably take a stab at reading whatever this artist does. And they're doing some new types of paneling and things in here when they're talking about
Yeah.
Pluto. There's some really interesting panel work that's going on in there that, like, I don't think you could really compare this artist to Andrea Sorrentino in most cases, but like that paneling does something like that.
Yeah, no, I think Sorrentino is a good touchstone to talk about this artist for sure.
Weird like Sorrentino.
Yeah. It's I don't finish a ton of first issues of a comic at our shop kind of befuddled, or like I miss something. But also that's sort of how I feel about Lovecraftian stuff in general. It's huge and opaque and makes you feel small and confused. And so maybe it's just going according to plan. I'm interested in any fictional horror you want to do in a Lovecraftian way. So that's between that and the art, that's what made me interested. All that said, I would give this a 7.5.
Jeff's giving it a 7.5.
7.5.
Recording on the internet. Recording on the internet. I would give it a 7.0. Even though it sounds like we probably would have flip-flopped those.
That creates an average score of 7.25.
That's true. That is true, Jeffrey.
Yep. Teaching people math out here.
Yeah, that's what we do. We're teachers.
And mathematicians.
Mathematicians in some cases.
That's true, especially you. Django, tell me about a book. Tell me about a book. I want to hear about the Justin Jordan book.
Gunpowder Prophets #1. This is from, oh God. I was going to say this is from Image, and then I saw this is from Mad Cave.
Yeah, it is.
Because Mad Cave is just knocking it out of the park with these independent stories.
And I think that you and I, maybe in New York, were at the Ignition party, and I think that we talked to Justin Jordan a little bit, and this must have been what he was talking about working on at the time.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I don't know if I was hanging out at that point, but yeah, that's awesome. That timeline would match up. Yeah, so this is written by Justin Jordan with art by Patrick Piazzalunga.
Nice one, dude.
Yeah,
I love it.
Colors by Roman Stevens. Man, I miss Roman.
I miss Roman too. The long, strong dong of the law.
That's right. Let's see. This is really good. This is
Django,
way better than I expected.
Listen, before we move any further, we got to talk about our friend Arsenic Lullaby down here.
Okay, you're right. Oh, okay.
How about an extra degree of difficulty? Or for the degree of difficulty, Batman got a 10, and this effort only got a 7.5. Okay. So in my score, I'm trying to take art and writing into account together, which is tough to do because I agree. The art in that book is an effort. It's unique. It paints a world and provides an emotional atmosphere that is definitely higher than a 7.5. The writing, I kind of struggled with. I didn't know exactly what's going on, but I don't think that a person needs to understand what something's going on for it to be a quality thing. So, what do you think, Django?
I don't know. I mean, I think I enjoyed it about a 7.
I think you're right. I think that's where it comes down to.
I'm not scoring the art or the like what the book is worth. I'm scoring my enjoyment of it. And my enjoyment of it was probably lower than somebody who likes that type of story. It's also like I don't know, sitting by somebody's hospital bed and having the next best thing to square boxes describing what's going on is a stretch for me. I don't think everybody would agree with that, but I'm here primarily for the goofs,
Yeah.
and the art in that case. So we could break it down, and I would give that art a 10, and I would give the not even the
Story.
writing,
Yeah.
just my interest in the story, a much lower score.
That was so well said, Django. And yeah, you're right. It's hard sometimes doing these scores. You get lost between trying to be objective about the quality, but you got to come back to how much you enjoyed or were interested in the thing. And then I'm going to assume that our friend Arsenic Lullaby here is Douglas Paskowitz, who wrote Arsenic Lullaby.
But one of the best, ridiculous, horrible little comics ever made.
One
That
of the
I'm proud to own every single thing ever
one of
made.
the
I think.
first comics Django shared with me when I met him was Arsenic Lullaby.
Oh, I'm surprised we still hang out. That's a big stretch for a stranger.
Gunpowder Prophets, Justin Jordan, author of The Strange Tale of Luther Strode and Spread.
Yeah. Just a fun, violent, magical adventure. And the art is 10 times better than what I would expect from a small independent publisher like Mad Cave. We've got, like swamp and alligator violence. We got fun, just fun adventure. I just felt like I had a good time after I read this. And all the art and everything is I've never seen this artist before, Patrick Pazzalingua, and I think that this is somebody that I'm going to follow. Like they did, even the decapitations are just kind of goofy and fun to hang out with.
But there were decapitations.
There were decapitations. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Probably somewhere in between a steak and a Cliff Bar, nutrition wise.
Django, what do you think you could attribute the kind of rapid change in Mad Cave appearance and quality to?
I don't know, man. I'm hoping that I run into Mad Cave at New York Comic Con next week, because I'd like to just ask them, like, was this a conscious decision, or did they hire somebody who is a talent scout that's finding these creators, or what? Because there's been in the last 4 months, I think I've realized that I'm reading almost everything Mad Cave puts out.
Yeah, it's been a rapid year of kind of climbing the ladder of the felt professionalism in their books, I guess, for me. And maybe other people have been feeling it for quite a while. But I remember, we had one subscriber, Dino Chupino, to Battle Cats, which was one of the original Mad Cave books, and it was fun, and there was some very muscular hot catmen in there.
Yeah.
But it had a feel of a kind of low publisher book, and they've really widened the scope of the stories, like the types of stories they're telling. Their artists seem to be when Django flipped this open for me on Wednesday, I assumed it was an Image book, because that's kind of the top tier area of artists and writers get to do their books there. So it's really impressive.
And 2 months ago, I would flip it open and I would think, oh, this looks like a higher end Boom or IDW horror book. And I don't know what they're doing, but they've really got something figured out here, and I hope that it's working for them. I'd like to see this trend continue, because giving creatives an outlet and giving us another place to get good, well told stories like this and fun art is, we need more.
Yeah,
as distribution gets weirder, we need more outlets for this stuff.
I'd put them on the same tier as Boom, and probably having books that I'm enjoying more than Boom lately. But
Yeah.
Boom's they're a benchmark. So, okay,
Yeah.
I was just thought experiment. Thank you for engaging.
This gets Gunpowder Profits 8.0 O.
Okay.
Arsenic Lullaby says the composition of this cover is very sophisticated. Yeah, it's like an old EC comic, and you get some of that inside too. Just like, you know, lots of kind of homage feel to everything.
I like the like kind of from below angle on Muscular Chin Man there, gun guy. You know, it's
Yeah.
Django, I'm going to tell you about something I read, eh?
Yeah. Make sure it's not something I read.
Okay. Did you read Good Devils Don't Play Fair with Evil?
I didn't. I gave you my copy.
Yeah, you did. And I've got it. This is a one-shot comic that came out this week. And the only thing that I really knew about it going in was that Nick Dragotta did the art. I've been a big fan of Nick Dragotta for a long time. I incorrectly assumed that he wrote it as well, but it was written by David Brothers with art by Nick Dragotta. And it was one of those books that as I was reading it, I was looking forward to getting to the write-up at the end to hear what the kind of germ of this idea was. Like, what is this? It felt sort of like an experiment to play around with some new art styles or pay homage to some things that have been influential to these creators. Dragotta a couple of years ago did a mini series called Ghost Cage that he, I believe, did do the writing and all the art in. And it was, I do love when artists who typically do the art duties get the opportunity to write and draw a story. It's really cool to get kind of inside the brain of somebody and see what motivates them. But that series, Ghost Cage, was a little opaque as well, and kind of, you know, I don't need to know exactly what's going on in a book, but it felt kind of just like a thing he wanted to do because his art was coming out that way. So this has that feeling as well. At the end, in the write-up, it's cited that this is sort of an homage love letter to a couple different mangaka, the creator of Fist of the North Star and some other kind of Spike Lee films, and sort of it's a love letter to a genre and a type of thing, which I think is awesome. It consists of like 4 or 5 short chapters, each with different characters and different things going on. I will be straightforward. I don't really know what happened in this comic, and I don't need to know what happens in a comic to enjoy it. There's multiple artistic styles used throughout this. I believe it's kind of 4 main story things. 3 of them were done digitally, and 1 was on actual hand-drawn paper. And on the pages that were hand-drawn in paper, not digitally, they like shrink it down so that you can see the full page size. You can see like his signature and any, ink marks that are outside the borders, which is a sort of interesting thing to do, especially within a comic where they're using the full pages normally amongst the other ones. Some of them are colored, some of them are black and white. If you're a fan of Nick Dragotta's art, is a fantastic thing to get and read. It's chunky, it's got a spine, there's a lot of really wonderful character designs in here. It is mostly an excuse to have cool looking characters fighting, but I got no problem with that. So if you are a fan of Nick Dragotta's art, I think you got to hunt this thing down. We didn't get a ton of them, but it's kind of a love letter to like underground film and, kind of underground manga. And if you read for the art, this is for you. And if you specifically need a story thrust, I don't know if this would be for you.
I think Nick Dragotta is like the closest to manga art style that I get into.
Totally.
Right? Like he's got a lot of that influence, but a lot of times I bounce off of really hardcore manga, and like this is kind of could be my entry point to being able to appreciate that a little bit better.
Yeah, and it's just also rewarding to watch artists get to a point like where Nick's gotten with Absolute Batman, where like he's locked it in. He did the job. I guess East of West would have also done this, but like he doesn't really need to worry about getting work now. So it provides artists these opportunity to do the things that actually interest them. Generally things with a larger chance of failing. And so I think it's really cool when artists are encouraged to take those risks and chances. So I need to look up what this Brothers fella has done as well. But just some nice black and white comics. Good stuff. I'm going to give this one an 8.0.
Nice. I listened to a podcast with those guys. It was off panel.
Nick and Scott? Oh, these two.
No, these two, David Brothers and
Yeah.
Nick Trigata. And they were just talking about creating this thing. And it sounded really interesting. That's why I took it home. But I'm glad you took it and read it, because I would not have had time to read it before this podcast. And I'll just steal years later.
It was a chunky one for sure.
David Brothers did some of the backup stories in Newburn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I think he's been kind of behind the scenes of comics a lot.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Django.
Yeah, buddy.
We had kind of a big thing come out this week.
Was it Absolute Evil?
It was absolutely evil.
Absolute Evil.
Yeah.
Boy, I'll tell you what.
What? Tell me, please.
I didn't even think to put this in the Absolute universe when I saw the cover.
I mentioned that to the folks at DC when I sent an email to them about a month ago about this.
I put this in the Absolute Power camp.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
And did not care. In fact, if you hadn't put it in my file, and if I hadn't just taken it home without looking through my file, I'm not convinced that I would have read this. And it turns out that it's really, really good. And I think probably pretty important to the Absolute universe.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And that's one of the things that DC does need to be a little bit careful with. You know, they have a line of books called the Absolute books. They have a binding of books called Absolute Batman and whatnot. And they had an event called Absolute Power. They also, I believe, in Scott Snyder's Justice League, wasn't the Absolute a part of it? Was like the bad guy or a thing beyond the source wall was the Absolute?
I think you might be right. That's years ago.
It's years ago. But while reading this, I was like, are they threading stuff together in an intelligent way? Is the usage of the word absolute been more than just a word to distinguish a line?
Are they going to call it Absolute Batman? Absolute Superman?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to how they do that. They might avoid putting those in Absolute Edition specifically for that. But I agree. I think that this runs the risk of looking quite a bit like just kind of a Justice League tie-in book. I mean, we're getting it on the same week as this Justice League book, which, you know, seems kind of like a Justice League one-shot tie-in thing. So I think that they could have made it a little bit clearer as to where this fits in. Is it main DC? Is it Absolute? And having it be like the first Absolute issue kind of crossover, like prelude to an Absolute event comic, like that feels like a very big deal.
Yeah, it's basically forming the Absolute Injustice Gang. No, League of
Legion
League
of
of
Doom.
Eagle. Legion
League of Eagles.
League of Eagles.
The Absolute League of Eagles.
It's like all the bad guys coming together in the Absolute universe and forming a team. Art by Camuncoli.
Giuseppe Camuncoli. Django loves Giuseppe Camuncoli and Carmine Di Giandomenico.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I like those Italian artists.
You do.
And this has, like, you know, Al Ewing's writing it. It's got some pretty brutal stuff that happens to some heroes that you might think maybe someday we would get an Absolute version of.
Yep.
And it's got a great shot of Absolute Batman jumping in front of the lightning.
Yep.
Which I always appreciate.
Yep. Django does love a Dark Knight Returns homage, as we've already touched on in this podcast.
Maybe the fourth time it's come up in the last 45 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. I thought this was like, it's basically just a bunch of bad guys sitting around a table and talking, and still very, very enthralling the whole time.
You know, bad guys sitting around at a table talking, but it did give us something that, especially for the first like 5 months of the Absolute books, I was talking about wanting, which is just flushing out the world a little bit. Just being able to zoom back and see how the different series are connected, or what elements of this world are kind of control variables and what are dependent variables. So we get a fair amount of that in this issue, and strengthening that, they kind of give you a little rundown of the different Absolute books. It's not long. It's just like 2 pages that kind of the bad guys are talking about these people that have appeared, but it's just nice to get the confluence of all these different events being mentioned in the same sentences, and you get kind of like a timeline. So I really liked that. It felt more like, rather than disparate, separate books that just exist, they're, are in this world. I really like the bad guys. I really like the bad guys, Django. And I think that we're hanging out with the bad guy Joker.
Yeah, which goes against what we've seen from the Absolute Batman teases with the 30-foot tall bad guy Joker.
Dragon Man. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think of Ra's al Ghul doing his best Vandal Savage impression here?
Yeah, you're right. Seems like they basically blended Vandal Savage and Ra's al Ghul together here.
Yeah.
He looks like Vandal Savage. They're both essentially eternal. He runs a big company. Yeah. I'll say, and that's a character that surprisingly we've been introduced to in the Absolute Superman book, but I'll say I'm maybe Vandal Savage is my least favorite of them. There's the blonde-haired lady that's the boss.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a name of a person you recognize?
I don't remember what her name was in this.
Cass or something?
No, not off the top of my head.
Okay, I'll find it.
Veronica Cale,
there
National
you go.
Security Advisor. Yeah, that's not a character I recognize.
Okay.
I really like the Wesley Dodds stuff and the Wildcat stuff. Like, flashing back to that was really interesting. This shot of the dude in the desert, just standing there smoking. Every time I flip through this comic, that panel stands out to me.
Yeah, it looks a little bit like Gary Frank almost, or something. Not the human, just the art.
Yeah, I was thinking it looked a little bit like Jason Blood, but you're right, Gary Frank.
Jason Blood.
So yeah,
the world that it's painting here, it's basically saying that they discovered a particle that, in the same way that particles are affected by gravity, this particle has an emphasis on like good versus evil, or like there's a moral component to it. And it sounds like it's kind of the component that in the Absolute universe is keeping bad things happening. When this all started with the All-In special, Darkseid like died, the Absolute world was born, and it's a world where like Darkseid has succeeded. So it seems like there's, what they're doing here is kind of putting a basis for why this dark, rainy world is what it is, how bad things have been allowed to continue going on. But we're also introduced to the idea that maybe there's this behind the scenes company who's been paying people off, or trying to get heroes killed, or pay heroes to, just go hang out in their house and not fight crime, which we are then revealed that in issue like 3 or 4 of Absolute Batman, when he was offered all of that money to leave, like it was the same group doing that. So again, just painting a larger picture of this world. And I really appreciate that. And I'm very interested in the Absolute Hawkeye or Hawkman and Absolute Green Arrow.
Yeah. This is hard to score.
Is it?
It's for me. You have a score loaded?
I got one ready.
All right. What do you got?
I'm going to go 9.0, but there's a part of me that even feels about, what about Absolute Dave? West Coast Dave, Absolute Dave.
Oh, what kind of person is West Coast Dave in the Absolute universe?
I don't want him to. I just want him to be in our universe.
Grittier.
Grittier. And then we get some nice Brainiac stuff in the back of this as well. Big fan of that Absolute Brainiac.
Yeah. I was teetering between 7.5 and an 8. I'm going to go with an 8.
Yeah.
I want something else out of this. I don't like the I wish that they weren't trying to tie the main DC universe and the absolute DC universe together in any way ever. I don't need a reason for them both to exist. Like the dark side stuff, I don't care. I don't need that conflict between the two. And I don't think that the reason anybody likes the absolute universe is the potential for it to cross over with the main universe.
Yeah, I don't care for it to cross over. I would like to keep that separate.
But even just talking about the way something in here, like the Mirror Master conversation made me
Yeah.
think that he's looking at a bridge in there through
Mhm.
mirrors. And
I really like that quite a bit. The idea, I guess, with the absolute universe, like it doesn't need a reason to exist. The ultimate universe was created to be what it was, and this is absolutely allowed to do that. But it did happen in a moment, like a narrative moment in the All-In special. Something happened with Darkseid. This world was created, and they have left those threads open. And I've really liked that. Did you read the Justice League Omega Act special?
I didn't, but I want you to talk about it because I should have read it.
Worth mentioning right now because it is also very rooted in exploring, leading us into DCKO, which seemed kind of like a throwaway thing to me at first, but actually I'm getting more and more excited about. But in this issue, it's kind of getting us to that spot by incorporating aspects of what's been going on in the Justice League and Superman books, as well as exploring this sort of Darkseid particle thing a little bit, or at least talking about what happened with Darkseid at the Watchtower in that All-In special.
Nice.
And like they're confused. But between the absolute evil introducing like that particle that has a moral component, and then this one, they're really doing that kind of A, B, and C plot that we've been talking about. And a big part of this issue is the Time Trapper. So that character popped up as Doomsday in Superman months ago.
Yep.
And then there was the Justice League event, We Are Yesterday. And both of those things have tied together now with this event. And we got Booster Gold going to the future. Time Trapper is like, Superman, I've been trying to tell you for like a year, the future is effed. And so that, I like how that connects. But the interesting about this issue is we, throughout the whole thing, are giving flashbacks that kind of take us back to pre-fall of Krypton days. And we have two Kryptonian girls who are exploring a spot and they get attacked by something. They try to run and escape, but they go to this kind of abandoned area of Krypton. And in the basement, they find this door with the Omega symbol and like a dark mother box and Hawkman's like wings and a bunch of other like super things that they're like, what's going on here on Krypton? And they get this translator and it sounds like they've been building the ultimate weapon and it looks like it's Doomsday. And then we're, back in the present and we're hearing about Time Trapper Doomsday and how he was created to be Krypton's attempt to be able to handle Darkseid. So there's a lot of things tying together here. And I really like the patience that DC has allowed these things to have. Like, how long ago was the All-In special? It was over a year ago, right?
It was a while ago, yeah.
Yeah. So I love, the Time Trapper's been around for a year or so in the background. And so it doesn't feel like when the importance of his message is put in front of us that it's out of nowhere. It gives everything a bit more weight. And I think that preview for DCKO where Superman's got his like gloves made out of Doomsday stuff.
Yeah.
I think we plant the seeds for how we would get those here. And yeah, it's exactly what I want from Justice League DC stuff. It is making me excited about a big story that involves all of these characters, and it's planting seeds and nurturing them over a period of time to pay off in stories later on. So I really, really liked this one. Joshua Williamson wrote this, and the art is done by Yasmin Putri and Xian Torme. Really, really good stuff. But Roman has mentioned like he really doesn't like Doomsday as the Time Trapper. like you got the
I
dark side
like
stuff.
Doomsday as the time trapper.
I do too. I love the idea that he's kind of at the end of time because he's indestructible, and every
Yeah.
time he dies and is reborn, he gets stronger and more evolved. So at the end of time, he would be this hyper evolved thing. Like I think that's really awesome. This is, it feels a little bit almost like Final Crisis-y, Morrison-y, just big stuff, big swings. And for me, none of it is missing. Like it's not
Nice.
taking swings that it's missing. So I gave this one a 9.5.
Dang.
Yeah.
You liked comics this week.
I liked comics. I love comics. I
You're a
specifically
cosmic boy.
loved some DC stuff this week. Heck yeah.
I'm looking forward to reading this mostly just to find out if they give Booster Gold a razor before they send him into the future, or if he has to go with that scraggly beard.
That's a good question.
I'll find out when I read Justice League The Omega Act Special #1 one-shot cover A. Jorge Fornes DCKO is the official title.
The art is really nice, Django. I mean, I love Yasmin Putri's art, so it's good. And I love Darkseid stuff, and this really gives me that feeling of like, oh, like Darkseid is the big bad of the DC universe. So
yeah.
I don't have a ton left to talk about, Django, but I do have things in the can. So I don't know, what do you got?
That's pretty much everything I read this week that came out this week. I did read The Immortal Legend of Batman #2, which I think was a last week book, and man,
how was it? I think that was this week, maybe.
I'm
Maybe
not a Power Ranger guy, Jeff. That's what
true.
I can say about that comic. I think this is probably great for somebody who likes Power Rangers. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all. I like the coloring.
I do just want to mention I read X-Men Age of Revelation Overture #1 because so much of the X stuff is this Age of Revelation for the next couple of months.
Mhm.
And I have not been reading the X-Men books for the last 6 months or so. And I wish I was. I wish that it was captivating my interest and making me want to read it. But, post Krakoa, it's been a little wanting for me. So I'm giving him as many opportunities as I can to make me interested and want to read this stuff. And I think that this one suffered for me because I don't know anything about the Age of Apocalypse. That was before I was reading comics.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how much of this is coming out of characters and things that have been happening in the Gail Simone and Jed McKay X-Men runs that are coming out. So, like, we're just thrown into some stuff here. And I was pretty confused. And yeah, Cyclops keeps saying Schwarzschild. Apparently there's a character named Schwarzschild. I don't know anything about that, but he's a big part of this issue. I do love
like
the
using the
Stegman art.
Schwartz.
Yeah. Yeah. SCHWARZSCHILD.
Weird.
Schwarzschild. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff within here that I wasn't really familiar with or knew what's going on. This character Revelation, probably an important character since this is the Age of Revelation, but none of that hit for me. I do think, again, the Stegman art is really gorgeous, and I really like his art, and it's the best parts of 90s stuff. And Magneto has this like awesome feathery cape that's very, very cool. But yeah, I think they had the like prequel 0 issue like 2 months ago, and then now there's this. The publication for it is kind of confusing. It's a ton of sprawling miniseries, which is what X-Men often does for their events, which is always kind of a mixed bag for ordering and seeing which series kind of transitions to which series to move subscribers over from. And I think it does leave a lot of room for people to maybe have some overexposure and drop out. But I'm interested in this. If anybody wants to give me some details on Schwarzschild and stuff, I would love it. X-Men 17 through 2020 is a good build up, and Stegman rules. Bubba, I couldn't agree more. Stegman's art is so cool. But yeah, given this kind of like #1 overture nature, I was hoping that it would have been a little bit more new reader friendly.
Do you think that maybe we're jumping into nostalgia a little too quickly with something like this?
Like the Age of Apocalypse nostalgia?
Yeah, like, I don't know. It feels like Age of Apocalypse is probably 10 years too new to really capture the nostalgia that people would have for it.
Yeah.
And I might be wrong and I might be too cynical, but
It's a blind spot for me. So
yeah.
I do know it's a revered story, but I do think they're taking a little gamble by leaving everything that's been going on to go do this for several months. Because what if some
Yeah.
people don't like this and they just want to be reading the X-Men books that they were? It
Because they're
reminds
doing
me
a
like
night terrors kind of thing with this, right?
yeah,
Where they're
yeah.
pausing everything. Yeah, that's a bummer.
It's I just think like X-Men. It's been a long time. They really need to like focus on a core group of characters that people can get really into, because often there's this huge library of characters and it's easy to start writing characters that other people aren't familiar with, or I'm not familiar with, or don't know the stakes of. And that really core center I think is important, and I think
Either
it's been
that
missing.
or release a trailer for the movie.
Yeah,
Either one will do.
I said 8.0 question mark for my score.
Yeah. Are you gonna go up or down?
I don't know. 8.0, because it seems I'm gonna go 8.0.
All right.
I don't think that I loved the writing of it. I thought it was pretty confusing, but the art really is an art style I love. So it didn't grab my interest to want to be reading more. But I will probably check out the spine of this and maybe ignore the ribs.
That's a I think a responsible way for a man who could have any new comic this week in his pile of things to read to handle a big crossover event.
All spine, no ribs.
All spine, no ribs.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to finishing my books this week, including Roots of Madness. Rook Exodus is back. If you had told me before that book came out that I would be excited for the return of Rook Exodus at number 7, I would have laughed and walked away from you.
It's that Jason Fabok art. Love that guy.
Yeah, it's just balls to the wall. And the Cheetah and Cheshire robbed the Justice League. I only read the first issue, but now I've got issue 2 and 3 ready to go. So, yeah, good week of comics. And Jeff and I looked through the invoice for next week, and it's another good week of comics next week. So,
yeah, I've mentioned this with Django, but we were really busy. Django and I were both out of town a little bit over the last like 6 weeks. We were doing our move, which was really busy. So I got kind of behind on my reading stack, which is not super common for me. So I have a kind of a big chunk of it. But what that has meant is that enough time has gone by that a bunch of the books I still need to read have had their second issue come out. So I'm allowing myself to have the fun of reading 2 issues at a time for a bunch of these things. So I've got a whole bunch of absolute books that I need to read 2 of in a row. It's fun. It's weird how much we get into a routine with the way that we read and the types of things we read and what guides and limits what we do and don't read. And, you gotta shake up the snow globe every once in a while, which is what I've got going on.
I always enjoy reading 2 at a time. And
yeah,
that does not really work well with our flow.
Totally.
Store owners and podcasters and just people who get behind on things.
Totally.
Yeah.
West Coast Dave also liked Batman 2. Love the standoff with the comps. I'm with you, Dave. Anybody listening or watching this, if you have not checked out West Coast Davengers YouTube channel, super nice guy that loves comic books and loves sharing that love with other people, which is what I am here for. If you are like Dave or me or Django or Bill Elmer from earlier, and you want to contribute to this podcast in a way that is more than just the comments, which we love the comments, you can send us an email and send that sweet, sweet email to the official podcast email address of jeff@thecomicsplace.com. You could also record a voice memo and attach that in your email and send it over. Whatever causes you to contribute to the overall experience of Papcast is what we want. So feel free to send those in and we'll respond to them and answer questions, and we love it. So jeff@thecomicspace.com.
Jeff, before we get out of here,
Please.
I want to shout out one movie and one TV show. Well, 2 TV shows. One movie is Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another, which I saw in the theater the day before Jeff and I went to see There Will Be Blood in the theater at a special showing at noon.
Also,
and let me
Paul
tell
Thomas
you,
Anderson.
Also Paul Thomas Anderson. If you've never watched There Will Be Blood at noon on the big screen, that will take your entire day.
I had such a good time. That's
It
one of
was
my
so
favorite
good.
movies of all time, and I'd never seen it in the theater before. So Django and I went to our noon showing, smuggled some coffee in. It was phenomenal.
I am a little bit ashamed to admit how much I took from Daniel Plainview and incorporate into my everyday life. Not quite in such a psychopathic way, but I think about the way he does things quite a bit, and I didn't really realize it until I rewatched that movie with you.
Yeah, I
Um,
love the chess game he's playing with people.
Yeah, and I would recommend that everybody check out Peacemaker. Mostly you, Jeff, because I know you're not keeping up with it. I don't remember the last time I've had this much fun with a depressing TV show.
Well, I just finished Alien Earth.
Yep.
And while, yes, Survivor did start this week, a lot of people contributing with comments about milkshakes, which I'm there for it. And I love you all. Yeah. Okay, Peacemaker. I'm sure I'd be able to dig it without having seen season 1.
Yeah, you'd like it more having seen season 1, but season 1's great too. But just this one, it's really, really good.
Yeah.
And then Task is also on HBO.
Oh yeah, we're 3 episodes in.
Are you okay? Cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were watching that. I'm really digging it. It is after I watch Peacemaker with Erica, I say, okay, now I'm going to go watch my Dower show because
Yeah.
it's just going to be a bummer by the end.
Did you? Yeah, it's a show that like makes me anxious while watching it because it feels so tense and stressful. Did you watch their last show, Mayor of Easttown?
Yeah, and this is maybe not in the same universe, but definitely in the same part of the country.
Yeah, and the tone and the style. Yeah, I really love that show and Task as well. So
I like this one because it's a bunch of people in like kind of putting themselves in situations that suck, but they don't seem like bad people.
That's the hardest part.
In impossible positions for everybody in there.
Yeah, you're like, you're not making the best decisions, but you're also a good person, and this is gonna suck to see come to a head.
Yeah, I could make that. Damn it, I would do the same thing you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Drainage, Eli. Drainage. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Shout out to everybody who contributed in the chat. I'm looking forward to hearing from you all via email next week, where we will most likely have Roman back, but Django might be in New York.
I'm going to be in New York.
Django's going to be in New York. So,
New York.
You know, stay flexible, everybody.
Yeah. We'll see you all there.
Yeah, Django, I'm going to miss you in New York.
Was that the end?
Oh, no, this could be the end. Bye, everybody. See you next time.
Let's
music
coming. Oh man, I really missed this.
West Coast The Avenger says hi to everyone in New